Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Glad you're with me on Wednesday night when I might normally be doing an evangelicalish podcast, but hanging out with you guys and mostly to celebrate that I have my TikTok account back, which I think is really cool. And as usual, I'm going to break some gender norms while I'm doing my live by throwing on some earrings, which for some reason really freaks out Christians because Christians and Fox News watchers have built this false narrative of what a man should be. And it is a false narrative. So anyway, glad you're with me. Our topic today is that Christians and their response to the overturn of Roe is not Christian. Thank you, Jamie. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about it in terms of, I know it's a crazy thing when we're talking about Christian politics, but we're going to talk about it in terms of the Bible. Now, I know right-wing Christianity hasn't been based on the Bible for a long, long, long time. But we're going to talk about it in terms of the Bible. And there's a whole bunch of different ways I can go, but welcome everyone. And let's have a moment here together and welcome you back to my main account, which has been hacked and I've been locked out of for about a week. So I'm so excited to be back on the Pastor Paul TikTok account. So as we get started, let me know where you're joining from. Thank you, Karen, for that message. Let me know where you're joining from. We connect around place. My name is Paul. I live in Fresno, California. My pronouns are they, them. And so you can share your pronouns. Let me know your name, where you're from. And Karen is with us on Facebook from Carmel Valley, California. Where's Carmel? Is it Carmel Valley? Carmel Valley, I guess it is. You are so fun, says I blame EJ. What church do you pastor, or do you just call yourself a pastor? Yeah. Marcy is from Mount Vernon, Washington. Eva is from Alabama. You are beautiful, they, them. Thank you, I blame EJ. Love the earrings from Portland, Oregon. Good to see you. Underground Fork says blocked. Well, good. Ryland Music driving down Ashland. Hi, Bill. How are you? Or the Ryland family. Carrie from Kansas is joining. Julie from Colorado is here. Gator John says, my pronouns, what the heck? Because he's a manly man, and we don't do pronouns in our house because we're manly men, you know. Joining from Tigard, Oregon, which I have no idea where that is. Maryland, thank you for the follow on TikTok. Oakland, Oregon. Love you. Thank you, chilling out. No way. You put earrings on this? LOL. Jules Knight from West Virginia. Lots of people joining in. Brian from Colorado. Now, is that a town called Colorado in Texas, or is that you're from Colorado and Texas? Shay from Kentucky is here. Sorry that she's from Kentucky. JD from Columbia, South Carolina on Facebook. Peggy from Michigan on YouTube. Stacy from Green Bay, Wisconsin on Facebook. And Game with Katie Mom from Missouri. I grew up in Missouri. I've lived much of my life in Missouri. Asia from Asheville, North Carolina on Facebook. How can they, them describe a single person? We're changing. Oh, the English language has never changed in all of history. Woo, the English language is changing. I mean, good God, do you people ever listen to yourself? Do you ever listen to yourself? The English language change? How dare it? That's why they have to keep coming out with new editions of the dictionary every year. How dare you change the English language? It has never changed, just like the Bible. It is never changing. Never changing, ever. So the Bible never changes. Yes, we have 300 English translations, but it never changes. And neither does the English language. Brian from West Central Ohio is with us, very red area. The earrings make me smile, says Game with Katie. All right, Jamie, good to see you. I used they, them to describe a singular person way before I was educated on pronoun. Thank you, Woodley Pup. And I go with they, them because I'm going to be explaining more about that in the coming days, but I am working on my own emotional health journey, and I'm very excited to do it. And I found out, like most of us, when we're willing to admit it and not stuck in some Christian or right-wing alpha male bullshit, we start saying, wow, there are a lot of parts in me in here. And we know that from like the idea of, say, somebody says, hey, you want to go out? And you say, well, part of me does, and a part of me wants to stay home. Or you have the mild-mannered guy who gets on the basketball court and he's punting the basketball because he's upset about a foul call or something. So it is truly, and I know a lot of men don't know this because men, particularly in Christianity, are not allowed to be honest about their emotions and their feelings. They have to stuff them and act tough all the time. And that's why so many Christian men are just little boys running around in adult bodies, and end up raping a lot of women and abusing a lot of women and being really bad people because we're told Jesus will just take care of it. Don't be worried about those emotions. So just Courtney asks, you have moderators? Jamie, one of my moderators, was on here, but I'm not sure I have anybody. Bernie Bunny says, wow, that's not very nice again. Yeah, Jesus was not very nice to religious people either. But to know that, you have to read the Bible, and I know not many Christians do read the Bible. And so it's kind of funny, when people say God created man and woman. So it says God created man in his image, male and female, he created them. And so even in that very early verse of the Bible, it's saying both male and female are created in the image of God, that God is not male or female. No, Jesus wasn't very nice at all, Patricia. Have you ever read the Bible? Like, Jesus called people whitewashed tombs. He said, wow, you strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Those are like massive public put downs of religious guys. So Jesus, I guarantee if Jesus were on earth today, evangelical people would despise Jesus, absolutely despise him, because he said really bad things to religious people. So anyway, thank you for sharing where you're from. My name is Paul. I'm from Fresno, California, and we connect around place. And so I just want to start by celebrating this moment we have together and just recognize how beautiful it is to have this moment together. So if you want, just relax for a second, let yourself breathe before we jump into having a discussion about Christians and Roe v. Wade and how it has exposed the darkness of the Western Christian heart. So just breathe for a moment and just feel yourself feeling that spiritual being inside of you. Now, Christians are afraid of mysticism, but even though they have salvation as this mystical process of some guy dying 2,000 years ago, and his blood somehow saves us, they still hate mysticism. But just feel yourself as a mystical being. Feel yourself as a spirit that's going to last longer than your body. And just imagine that we can connect our spirits together as paracletes, as ones who walk alongside each other and advocate for one another and share love and hope and energy. Wherever you're feeling any anxiety, just for now, let it go. Or if you'd like, you can set that anxiety to the side and say, anxiety, I'm going to come back to you when I'm finished with Pastor Paul here. But for now, I'm going to set you over there. And one more thing I want to ask you to do before we jump into our topic is just think about, what does God mean to you? And just let yourself breathe around that. Just imagine the divine goodness of heaven with you, around you. If you picture God like the traditional God depicted in Old Testament scriptures, of a being with 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a nose, that's great. If you see God as something bigger that said, I am that I am, I will be that I will be, that is neither male nor female, slave nor free, Greek nor Jew, but rather is a being beyond those definitions, you're welcome to interact with that spirit of heaven, that spirit of goodness. And just imagine what it would be like to feel that pure love of a being that doesn't judge, that says the story of Christianity is the blood of Jesus completely wiped out the act of Adam. It says in Romans, the act of Jesus is greater than the act of Adam. Now, Christians believe Adam's act is greater because Adam's sin affects everybody, and Jesus' act is only strong enough to impact those who say a magic incantation or prayer to go with it. But we believe that the heavenly spirit, the divine spirit of heaven, has completely wiped out the sin code, and now true goodness is judged on loving our neighbor as ourselves. So hatred and judgment and condemnation are not allowed to be in the place where the true spirit of heaven, the true divine goodness of heaven, is available. So just feel that spirit around you. And know that that spirit today is saying, you are good. It says in Genesis that creation was made and God declared it good. That includes you. You are good and you are worthy of good things. In John 3:17, it says, God did not send Jesus into the world to condemn the world, but that through Jesus, the world would be sozoed, not saved like say a prayer and go to heaven. It says sozoed, the Greek word sozo, which means to be fully reconciled to heaven as it was at creation, body, mind, and soul. And so I declare sozo over you today, that anything that has told you that you are not allowed to be in relationship with God, any bad theology that you were taught as a child, any condemnation brought upon you by your parents that said you are dirt and not capable of good, we just renounce that and let it go right at this moment. So say over yourself, I am good and I deserve good things to come to me. Just say it out loud over yourself. I am good and I deserve good things to happen to me. Thank you to the agnostic and the atheist who are affirming. I love that. You are good and you are worthy of good things that happen. Yeah, Peggy or Penny on Facebook says, that's good. I never thought of how we traditionally give Adam's action more power than those of Jesus. Yes, it is the evangelical belief that Adam's act is greater than Jesus' act, that Jesus' death on the cross was not enough to wipe out the sin code, that actually Jesus brought a new sin code, and you have to follow that as well as saying a magic prayer for Jesus' act to impact you. And that is a lie from the pit of hell. That is man-made religion, and a complete lie. And we renounce that lie today. So let me get into our topic today. Our topic is the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Sherry says, I needed this today. I'm so glad that encouraged you. Yes, magic prayer, Charles. That's what the sinner's prayer is. It's an incantation to make us okay with God. It is like a form of witchcraft, and it's never in the Bible. The sinner's prayer is not once in the Bible. Not once did Jesus ever ask anybody to say a sinner's prayer, and so it is a completely human creation and not of the God of heaven. And it says that Jesus' act was not enough to overcome Adam's act without the help of Christians, who then can say, I deserve my salvation, I deserve my righteousness, even though Romans says real righteousness you cannot boast about. But Christians always go around saying, I was saved on July 3rd, 1967. And that is a boasting about our righteousness. So there you go. So Roe has exposed the dark heart of Christianity. And I'm going to use Matthew 5 as an example of how that is. So what you see from Christians, and I use Christians in quotes. Hi, Irene. How are you? Good to see you. And Christians have been fighting a political battle because abortion was weaponized as an issue by the Republican Party and Republican operatives and racist pastors like Jerry Falwell in 1978. Ronald Reagan overnight became a Christian and an anti-abortion extremist because they wanted to get Jimmy Carter, probably the most evangelical Christian president we've ever had. They wanted to get Jimmy Carter out of office. I like Regain, something like that. Regan, something says, Johnny 5 says, sorry, Pastor Paul, but if heaven is full of Christians, I don't want to go. Yeah, I kind of agree. And so abortion was weaponized as a political issue to manipulate Christian voters in 1978 and has become the number one identifier of what it means to be Christian in America today. And therefore, we ought to make sure the Bible shows that. And we've talked about that in other lives. And I'm not going to go, I can go deeper into that. And I have a ton of videos on my YouTube and TikTok account that talk about that, and on my website, pastor-paul.com. And you can check that out. But what I want to say is how the overturn of Roe exposes a dark heart in the Christian church. You know, we have this, we showed the libs, you know, we got them. We had Supreme Court justices who lied under oath and said they believed that Roe was settled precedent. And then they clearly were lying, because the second they get a chance to overturn Roe, they do. So these Christians have come to believe that lying under oath, cheating, voting for a terrible, amoral, incompetent president for office of Donald Trump, all of that is not only allowed, but endorsed and commanded by God in order to overturn Roe v. Wade. It's a really bad theology. And now they're like, we got them, we won, we saved babies. Even though the second that umbilical cord is cut, we don't give a shit about babies anymore. Just like the Taliban, as Karen says. And if you're pro-choice, you're a baby murderer. You know that you're a baby murderer. So I'm going to tell you what I think Jesus, were he on earth today, would say about that attitude. And we go to Matthew 5, which is actually in the Bible. I know evangelicals, you guys don't read the Bible much. So Matthew is the first book of the Old Testament, of the New Testament. And since I know many of you don't know the Bible, you may not know where Matthew is, because all you hear is indoctrination in your church, and then you Google verses that match that. So reading the Bible means we have to go like to the actual Bible and read from Matthew 5. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry, Christians. I know that hurts your little hearts. So bless your hearts. Midlife says, love the snark on TikTok. So Matthew 5, Jesus says this, you have heard it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says raka, which is translated as you fool, some people say it meant asshole. It was actually a swear word. So whoever says asshole will be liable to hell of fire. So Jesus says, you've heard it say, don't murder. But I say, if you're angry with your brother, you're liable to judgment. So Jesus starts with saying, okay, you have great theology. Don't murder. Okay, wonderful. All right, cool. I'm already called a false teacher by a Christian. So that means I'm doing it right. Okay, cool. You've heard it say, don't murder, but I say that if you're angry with your brother, you're liable to judgment. So he's saying you can have all the great theology in the world, but if you're not in right relationship with people around you, you're not right. You can, well, my theology is great. That's what the religious people around Jesus were always saying. Like, we have right theology. And Jesus was like, who gives a shit? You treat people like animals. You suck. And so he says, if you're angry with your brother, you're liable to judgment. And so then he goes a step farther. You've heard it say, don't murder. But if you insult your brother, you're liable to the council. The council was the one you would be brought before and be accused of a sin and be given a punishment for your sin. And the punishment would be brought. So he says, if you insult your brother, like with, offend them, you're liable. I mean, if you have anger in your heart, you're liable to judgment. If you speak out of that anger, you're liable to the council. And then finally says, and if that malice in your heart comes out as harsh, angry insults, you're liable to hell. Yeah, you can be great all day on the theology of murder, but if you call your brother Raka, you're the one getting hellfire. And again, I apologize to Christians that I'm using the actual Bible, because I know you guys don't follow the actual Bible. You follow the right-wing mantra of your media and your pulpit. And so I know this is tough for you. So I think the modern translation of this in the area of abortion today would be, you've heard it say abortion is murder. But I say to you, if you insult somebody who disagrees with you on that, you're the one worthy to judgment. If you then speak that out of your mouth in an antagonistic way to somebody, you're liable to be brought before the council because you've committed a sin. And then finally he finishes it. And if it comes out of your mouth as pure anger coming up from your heart out of your mouth as baby murderer, if you call somebody a baby murderer, they're not worthy of hellfire. You're worthy of hellfire. And I have no question in my mind. Thanks for the sunglasses, Amy CGS. There's no question in my mind, if Jesus were incarnate on earth with what has happened in SCOTUS in this past week, he would be standing before evangelical pastors, and the evangelical pastors who had the prayer event in my city of Fresno against gay people, against LGBTQ plus, against queer people. He would be standing there saying, you guys, you are the ones worthy of hellfire. And just like happened in the first century when religious people hated Jesus for pointing out their hypocrisy, evangelicals in America today would hate Jesus passionately, because he would say, you know what? You've heard it say abortion is murder, but I tell you, you guys are the ones that I condemn. And he would say, there's nothing Christ-like about you. And I agree. There is nothing Christ-like in anti-abortion extremism of the church. And particularly because you've chased the next two generations, millennials and Gen Zers, away from the church in record numbers. And Gen Xers now are starting to exit. People my age are now saying, we're done with this shit. See you later. The church is going to disappear from America in 2 generations, because that anti-abortion extremism is nothing like Christ. Period. You've heard it say abortion is murder, but I say if you call somebody a baby murderer, you are the one worthy of hellfire. And again, I apologize for using the Bible because I know the Bible is something right-wing Christians don't believe in anymore. But I still believe the story of Jesus is pertinent to how we live for us. And there are others who have other beliefs that they follow, and I'm okay with that as well. All right. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you. The comments are flying fast. Just Wondering says, your earrings make me happy. They make me happy too. They make me happy too. Somebody's asking about my denomination. I was ordained in the Vineyard Association of Churches, but I think I don't believe in denominations. I don't think the denominations are from Jesus. Now, for some people, they work because they give them some oversight and accountability, but I just have seen, I was on the board and a president of the board for a pretty significant church network. And boy, once you see the sausage making of it all, eventually you got to step out. So I would not be a part of a denomination, but I am ordained and licensed and glad to be so. Magate, what does that say? Love the earrings, Pastor. Yeah, I love them too. And part of, just to explain, part of the reason I wear earrings is A, I like them. B, I want to break down gender normatives. I want to break down all kinds of normatives. And an easy way to do that is with clothing, and just watch Christians lose their shit over earrings on a man, as if all of history God has condemned earrings on a man. I mean, it's just silly. I think it's probably so. When Aaron made the golden calf, what did he say? He said, take the earrings off of your sons and your daughters and your wives and bring them to me. So boys were wearing earrings at that time. So what I just read from was Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 through 22. You have heard it said, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. And whoever says, raka, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So, thus says the Lord. All right, what are your thoughts, questions? Making up your own scriptures will end your own life because you lead many astray to liberal deception. Liberal. I've been taught by right-wing media that liberal is an evil word, and anybody who doesn't agree with me is a liberal because I'm so extreme. Anybody that doesn't agree with me has to be a liberal. God, do you guys ever listen to yourself? I'm hoping that you can hear yourself through me. You don't agree with me, you must be one of them liberals. I bet you like socialism, don't you? Man, when were you guys taught that thinking was disobeying God, to think and wrestle with concepts? When did that become a part of Christianity? Anti-abortion extremists do not try to preserve life at all. That's a complete lie, Paul, on Facebook. What stops abortions and lessens abortions is the data is clear and inarguable. It is free childcare, free healthcare, sex education for children, contraceptives available for young people in particular, but available for everybody, and help for the mom to have childcare, education, and food for their child after birth. Those are the things that actually lessen abortion. Banning abortion does not lessen abortion. So just banning abortion and being for banning abortion doesn't save any lives. That's a total, absolute 100% lie. It does not save lives. And we know this because Abortion has been illegal in the very, very Christian country of South Korea. South Korea has a much higher percentage of Christian people than the United States does, and abortion has been illegal in South Korea for 60 years. And for nearly every one of those 60 years, there were as many abortions per capita in South Korea as there were in the United States. And South Korea overturned their abortion law either last year or 2020. I can't remember exactly when it was. And why did they overturn it? Why did South Korea, the very Christian nation, overturn their abortion ban? Because they found that banning abortion didn't stop abortion from happening. All it did was ensure that rich people got safe abortions and poor people got risky abortions that put a woman's life at risk. So being an anti-abortion extremist, as you guys are, is not about saving babies' lives. It's about imposing your religious beliefs onto others, and you don't give a shit that it actually endangers the lives of women when you do it. So don't tell me you're pro-life. You are not pro-life. You are pro-banning abortion. You are anti-abortion. You're not pro-life. You are anti-abortion. And truly, you're somewhat anti-human because you also love military and war and incarceration of human beings and death penalty. Like any other thing that saves lives, you're against. And you're against all of the things that lessen abortion: education, sex education, contraceptives available readily, healthcare available ready, childcare available readily. Those are the things that have been proven by scientific data to lessen abortion. And you anti-abortion extremists are against all those things. And so don't tell me you're pro-life, because you're not pro-life. Nancy says, are the tassels on your earrings shorter? For some reason, these are different ones than I had on the other night, Nancy, but thank you for noticing. Don says, I'm Don. Whoops, I lost you there. I'm Don from Los Angeles. Banning abortion gives room to hemorrhaging and deaths because now it's not safe. Yeah, Don, it is an anti-poor stance. And it's funny because the most often repeated command of the Bible is take care of the poor, the foreigner, the outcast, the marginalized, and the economically disadvantaged. And Christians don't give a shit about any of those things. They are against all of those things. And so they're not pro-life. They are anti-abortion. And their belief is not biblical. And so it's really a funny thing. Like, Christians are not biblical. They don't follow Christ. They are followers of the Republican Party and right-wing religion. So 15 AAC says, hey, Paul, hope all is well. Love who you've become. Thank you. Do we know each other before? Shit's getting weird says, I got a death threat from a pro-lifer yesterday. Well, again, they're not pro-life. They're anti-abortion. Anti-abortion is lazy and about control. Dean says, he's evil and deceiving people. Well, I'm not. I'm putting out a thought and people get to choose for themselves. I know choice and thinking is scary for Christian people. You don't want people to have chance to think and wrestle with concepts. You just want dogma and indoctrination. And now you're trying to impose your indoctrination through civil law, which is the opposite of what Jesus told you. There's not a single verse in the Gospels where you could say Jesus said, here's a religious concept. Let's go input that through civil law. That's when things will really be great. So anti-abortion extremism of the church is completely non-biblical and completely anti-Christ. And I know that there are some people that are anti-abortion that don't understand that their belief is that they sincerely in their hearts, and I honor sincerely in their hearts thinking they're saving babies, but I hope you'll listen to me and say, banning abortion doesn't save babies. The data is incontrovertible. And the things that actually do lessen abortion and lessen unwanted pregnancy which was what we really should be fighting for. And thanks for the roses there, Jenny, on TikTok. What we really should be fighting for is lessening unwanted pregnancy, and the things that actually lessen the number of unwanted pregnancies in our culture. Anti-abortion extremists are against them all. And so that just shows me you're not about life. You're about imposing your religious beliefs, which you believe are the only right religious beliefs, and you're not even willing to consider and wrestle with the idea that you could be wrong, because you ignore that Romans 12 says, don't be conformed to your aeon, don't be conformed to your bubble, your era, but be transformed by the ongoing renewing of your mind so you can know what is good and right and the perfect will of God in a season. You don't care about the perfect will of God in a season. You only care about the dogma you're taught from the past. Peggy says Roe actually created marginalized people, and the Christian women don't even realize it. Yeah, you're correct. Penny says some Christians or right-wing Christians would give what you are saying a lot more credibility. Brian says forced birthers, not pro-life. Yeah, it's just not. And again, let me tell you, Christians, I know you're reciting what you've been taught from the pulpits and what you've been taught from right-wing media. I get it. You think you're saving babies, but just stop screaming for a second and hear from the Lord that God sees the world and life and sin very differently than you do. And you say, well, you're just out there saying this, but the church says something different. Well, the church has been wrong so many times through history. Can you not realize that? Can you not see it? That so many times in history, the church has been way wrong. I think at least as often as it's been right. Like Nazi Germany, the church was on the side of Hitler. The Crusades are an abysmal. Like if we ever start saying terrible things about Islamic people, we got to stop and say, yeah, we probably need to own that Crusades thing first, because those were really horrifyingly terrible. One of the worst acts, and we did it 4 times in history. So Christians, your religion has been wrong so much of the time of history. Think about it. And is there any chance you're wrong again today? Midland now, thank you for the roses on TikTok. I love the gift. By the way, for those of you on YouTube, I'm going to share something. If you want to help support my work and be a part of our community, you can go to my website, pastor-paul.com, and on YouTube. Something weird is happening here. Whoa, that was weird. I've never seen that before. Huh. StreamYard's freaking out. Oh, I bet I know what's going on. Okay, my bad. Let me fix something here. Keep commenting, guys. I'll be with you in a second. Okay. Fixed it. So yeah, you can, if you're on YouTube, you can just point your camera at the screen. You can sign up for my newsletter for free, or if you are able to and like what I do in spreading the message that God is not mad at you. God's not mad at you for leaving your evangelical Christianity. God's not mad at you for seeking a true spirituality outside the 4 walls of the church. Then you can help support for as little as $5.99 a month, whatever you can do to help. And don't put yourself in any financial distress to do that at all. And it's not a requirement. It's just how I make my living in the midst of sharing this message with the world. Hey, Paul, just looked at your Facebook page. How does a pro-lifer have a banner with guns as their masthead? Cognitive disconnect. You're not talking to me, Paul. You're talking to another Paul. Yeah, isn't that funny? I'm pro-life, and I'm for having weapons that can kill as many human beings in a minute as possible. I really believe it's important that we have guns that can kill as many human beings as possible and have no check on them. Yes, if you drive a car, you have to have a license and prove your insurance and have registration. But if you get a gun that can kill a whole bunch of people in 1 minute, no way anybody should know that you have that thing. And you should be able to get it on your 18th birthday and walk into a school and kill 19 children. I am pro Second Amendment. It's crazy, guys. We are in a crazy season. Yeah, that's okay, Penny. We're in a crazy season. And we know for a fact that their leader, Donald Trump, knowingly and with forethought and malice tried to overturn an election to keep himself as president. And people are like, yeah, that Bill Barr is being paid off to tell the truth about the election. It's crazy. I mean, we are in a time like the days of Jeremiah, where Jeremiah says the prophets prophesy falsely and the leaders lead out of their prophetic words. And you've forgotten justice for the poor, the marginalized, the foreigner, and the economically disadvantaged, the widow, and therefore shall I not avenge myself against such a people? And I really believe that is the message of God in the season, is right-wing Christianity, right-wing cultural beliefs are the scourge of a culture, and are what happens when cultures come to the end of themselves. When cultures start trying to input, just like the Taliban want to input their law into civil code and force people of all religions to follow their beliefs. That's what Christians are trying to do in America now. That's when cultures come to an end and are overturned. You know, what's her name? That total moron idiot. You know, electing evil people to office is one thing, but I just can't get over how stupid the evil people are that you guys elect. So like Lauren Boebert the other day, I'm just really sick of that church and state thing. Or, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm not going to be doing something that was founded in a peach tree dish. I mean, like you elect the dumbest people imaginable. It's just hilarious. But yeah, like what right-wingers are doing, imposing Christian law, imposing religious law through civil code, is usually the beginning of the end of a culture. And I think we're seeing that accelerated at an unbelievable rate. But what I really want my Christian friends to consider today is the church has been wrong through much of its history. And are you willing to think? Can you stop and think for a second? Maybe, is there any chance we have it wrong today? If Jesus said, you've heard it said, don't murder, you have this theology. But I say, if that creates a malice in your heart that comes out of your mouth as baby murderer, you're the one worthy of hellfire. Jesus said in Matthew 11 to the religious city of Capernaum, a very religious people, it was his headquarters. He did more miracles in Capernaum than anywhere else. And Jesus says to Capernaum, you guys think you're righteous? You think you're going to go to heaven one day? I tell you this, Capernaum, Sodom's going to have a better judgment day than you. And I believe, and I am prophesying this through my mouth, that Jesus is saying again to the church and to the right-wing church of America and to anybody that believes God's plan on earth is existent through America, he's saying Sodom's going to have a better judgment day than you guys. And then I'll let you determine what Sodom represents to you. Sodom is going to have a better judgment day than you. Jesus hated religion. And he had no use for the Sadducees who said, we're going to partner up with an evil, corrupt king to try to get our religion put back in charge of our country. They believed God's plan was for them to make Israel great again by getting the foreigners out, by getting those who had a different religion than theirs out, and their religion again being in charge of the nation, and their nation being the military and economic power of the world. Does that sound like any other religious belief that you know of? It is 100% the right-wing evangelical belief. And Jesus walked by the temple one day and his disciples were like, aren't these amazing? Isn't our religion amazing, God? Jesus said, not a stone of that thing will stand on the other. It's over. And he didn't say, pray that it doesn't happen. He said it has to go away. It's become so onerous and such bondage for people that it has to go away. And evangelical Christians, you don't even realize it, but you're the most condemning people imaginable. I love the sinner, I just hate the sin. No, you're the most condemning person of culture. You put ideation of suicide onto gay youths and you don't give a shit. You're happy about it. It's crazy. All right, I'm sorry. I went on another rant and am missing your questions. A Catholic priest refused Biden and Pelosi communion. Would Jesus ever do that? Refuse the body and blood for any reason? Absolutely not, Don. He sat with the Samaritan woman at the well. And no, evangelical Christians, he did not call her a sinner. Go read the story again. And he told her, she was like, is it this religion or this religion? And he said, it's none of those. It's not a religion. And he would do the same today. Is it Christianity or is it something else? And he would say, none of those. Jesus would adamantly say, I am not a Christian, and I did not come to bring Christianity to the world. Where's the mother in Christianity? Well, it says in the Bible, God made man in his image, which really means humans, and male and female, he made them. So in that text alone is contained the idea that I am, or I will be, that I will be. Male and female are all a part of God. God is male and female. God is a they. God is the ultimate they, them. God is a Trinity. I mean, Christians, you guys, I don't know, do you ever like read your Bible without your indoctrination and just say, wow, so it says right in there, I am that I am, I will be that I will be. God made humanity in his image, male and female, he made them. So therefore, male and female, both genders are in the image of God. And if you say, well, he made male or female, that's it, there are only two. Well, the Bible also says he made light and dark. There are only two, light and dark. There's no in between. There's no dusk and dawn. You're a liar. You're a false teacher if you say there's dusk and dawn out there. It says he made earth and sea, separated the earth from the sea. There's only earth and there's only sea. There's nothing in between. You're a false teacher if you say there's anything in between. Let me make my mean Christian face. Yet there's swampland and marshland. There's beach and shoreline. You just read words on a page and you put your indoctrination into them and your dogma, and you miss what is actually being said in the text. Peggy says, try to have a conversation that might compare abortion to owning automatic weapons with an evangelical. A longtime friend of mine told me I was brainwashed, and yes, she is an evangelical. I hope you dance says, oh my God, who says there's nothing beautiful in between? Well, Christians do. Christian, male and female, nothing else. Nothing else. There can't be anything else. Totally ignoring the fact that there are human beings born with both sets of genitalia. Totally missing that Jesus said, do you know that some eunuchs were born that way? And eunuch was another term for effeminate men or men who don't procreate. Do you know that some effeminate men are born that way? Some are made that way by others, and some choose to be that way for the kingdom. We just ignore the words of Jesus that don't fit our right-wing narrative. Even genetics isn't perfectly XX or XY. Thank you for sharing my live, Jose. Julie says they look at the Bible as a manual, and that is tragic and awful. A man told me the other day, it is because women aren't forced to marry anymore. That's why they are toxic. Yeah. Karen says two-spirit people. You're right. Kiva says, I was just saying the other day, sometimes art follows reality. Art follows reality, and sometimes reality follows art. I fear either way we're headed there. Yeah. Thank you, Flipper, for following me. When did you become a heterosexual? I love that question. I love to ask Christians, when did you decide to be a heterosexual? And how did you come about that choice? Well, they do choose to be homosexual. Yeah. When did you decide which sexuality you were? Or was it just there? Or are you covering for something? That's my next question always, is like, it seems like you protest a little bit too much. Are you covering up something? Because if you want to come out, we will support you all the way. We will love you. We will stand beside you all the way. Julia Bintalvarati. I found your page and I'm really fascinated and admire you. I grew up in Ohio, but have lived in Israel for the past 20 years. Whoops. Sorry, something happened there. Let me fix that. As an Orthodox Jew and as a mother of 5 and as a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, this rollback of reproductive rights is not consistent with traditional Jewish understanding of law. Thank you, Julia. The baby is considered a Rodef. I probably am not pronouncing that, so please forgive me for not knowing that pronunciation. Rodef, potential murderer until it is born, thus prioritizing the mother's life. There is a corpus of Jewish law for 2,000 years that we draw upon. Wow, thank you for sharing that. That is my understanding. I have a good friend who's a rabbi here in my town, and he explained it to me that there are some Jews that believe life at first breath, and there are some that believe the soul enters the being at bodily viability. So you may hear that differently. I don't know. So my understanding is also that, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Julia, that abortion is legal in Israel. I think you do have to go before a committee or something like that, but it's almost always rubber stamp approved. And not only is it legal, it is paid for by the government. Am I correct in that? Evangelical Christians are always like, gotta support Israel, gotta support Israel. And maybe they would be shocked to know that our $3 billion in annual support to Israel helps underwrite abortions in Israel, paid for by the government. Julia, let me know if I'm right in that or not, but that's been my understanding in my research. Oh, that is so interesting. Thank you for sharing. You're right, Wriggle. My guy, there's other religions, LOL. I'm a Hebrew Israelite and I disagree. Disagree with what, Sonny? I would be glad to hear what you disagree with. Sandy says, sometimes I think that, yes, he made them male and female, and then there was this thing called the fall, and now we have full spectrum gender salad, and that is not corruption itself. It's just the beauty of resulting diversity in exchange for ashes. Why don't evangelicals ask for laws making divorce illegal? Yeah, it's very true. They are very good at cherry picking scripture. And the reason they don't want to pass a law to make divorce illegal is because many tithers are divorced. At least half of them are divorced in the church, maybe more. And so if they outlawed divorce, they wouldn't be able to build those tax-free palaces anymore. Memes just became a top 1 viewer. Awesome. No, Israel loosened the laws. Curling 2.0 said. So it's not legal in Israel? Because I've always heard, like, yes, you have to go before a committee, but I was told it was a rubber stamp. Like, they never deny it. Brian says, don't give them any ideas on tax-free palaces. That's right, Wriggle. I did a video the other day about how churches are a financial detriment to a community, not a financial help. They sit on prime property and pay no property tax, and it's pretty incredible. Michael says, anyway, you need to read Romans chapter. I've read it many times. I've studied it in depth. I've studied Romans deeply. I know it very well, in and out, backwards and forwards. He says, and also you need to read Proverbs chapter 14, start about the 11th or 12th verse. That says there is a way that seems right to, there is a way that seems right to man. So then you have to match that to how Jesus said to live. And so first off, Romans chapter 1 is not an abolition of homosexuality, is abolition of going to worship down at the ISIS church down the road. And it says, if you go to the ISIS church down the road, there's a whole list of things that you can fall into. You need to reread Romans 1 because you are 100% wrong in your interpretation of it. I'm not trying to judge you in any way, but people are not born gay. So that is a judgment. That is a religious belief that you're trying to impose onto others. So, Michael, right away, I know what you're saying out of your heart, but you're just wrong. That is a condemnation and a judgment, and it is your religious belief. And I believe it is a gross misinterpretation of the Bible that actually causes people to unalive themselves, and you need to rethink it right away. Unless you aren't pro-life and don't care about lives, then stick to it, go for it. But otherwise, consider that there is a great possibility you've got it wrong. And I can tell you a whole bunch of ways you got it wrong, but I'm really talking about abortion today. Julia says, you are correct. Viability is considered at 40 days according to Jewish law. I'm also concerned about the influence of evangelicals in our government and some who curry favor with them. With the Israeli government, wow, we are infecting the world, aren't we? We are infecting the world. Sonny says, Pastor, how do you feel about Islam? I know several Islamic people that are friends of mine. And when they've explained their religion to me, they say, those people that Christians want us to bomb all the time, those are not the norm of Islam. Just as the really religious, the Proud Boys are not the norm of Christianity. They're becoming much more the norm of Christianity, but I would agree with you. They're the Proud Boys. So if you want to say, those guys that flew airplanes into buildings on September 11th are representative of Islam, then I would say to you, okay, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and some of those really horrible people and the racist people of the South are representative of Christianity. And you need to repudiate them loudly and long, just as you demand of Islamic people. But how is it any different today? How is it any different what Islamic people do in Iran or the Taliban does in Afghanistan as to what you Christians are doing in the United States? You're trying to impose your religious views through civil law. How is what they do any different? And you may say, well, they cut heads off people. I have Christian friends right now saying, let's start putting up the gallows in Washington, D.C., and let's do live executions on TV. So don't start telling me what Islam is and how great Christianity is. I had some fool post on my Facebook page today, like, women should be grateful for Christianity in the United States. I'm like, he's like, homosexuals should be happy because Islamic people throw gay people off of buildings. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You think women are built up by Christianity? No, they're totally second-class citizens in Christianity. And don't even get me started. Like what Michael is saying, clearly gay people are considered subhuman human beings by Christianity. Michael says, there is a way that seems right to a man, but to God it is wrong and plain and simple. Anybody who tells you the Bible is plain and simple doesn't know the Bible, because the Bible is anything but plain and simple. So he says, but God, to God, it is wrong, plain and simple. I believe you are absolutely. Now listen to this, guys. This is projection at its finest. This is Christian projection and Christian gaslighting at its finest. And probably Michael has been gaslit in his belief for his whole life, so he doesn't understand that he's gaslighting. So listen to this. There is a way that's right to a man, but to God it is wrong, plain and simple. So first you quote a verse, one that you've cherry picked from the Bible, and place it onto somebody. And then he says, I believe you are absolutely wrong, sir, and I believe in your heart you do too. Classic Christian projection and gaslighting. It is how dogma works. It's how indoctrination works. And Michael, I assume Michael's a good-hearted guy who now is coming on here and gaslighting and projecting onto me and believes that God wants him to do that because that's the indoctrination that's been put upon him. And it's evil and it's human created and it's condemning and terrible. And indoctrinated Christians, Jesus said this. He said, the leaven of a politically intertwined religion will take away your eyes to see, ears to hear, and heart to understand what is true in a season. And this is what we're seeing in poor people like Michael. The indoctrination of right-wing Christianity has taken away their eyes to see and their ears to hear. So they cannot understand. They cannot even stop for a second to consider if what they're being taught is wrong. All they do is then cherry pick a verse and throw it at you. Boom, Bible verse, boom. See, not even considering when in Proverbs, a poetic writing, by the way, says there's a way that seems right to man. It was written by a Jewish person, so it has to be measured against Jewish law. And as a Christian, has to be measured against how Jesus demonstrated to live. Jesus said, I am the perfect representation of the Father. And no one comes to the Father but through the life and teaching I'm demonstrating to you through my name, which is what it meant to follow a teacher. You would say, I am a follower of so-and-so. I am a like if you were my follower, you would be a Paulian or a Paulite. And so in my name means to follow the teaching and life demonstrated by that teacher. And so Michael has taken a verse completely out of context, throws it out there as a boom, gotcha. See? Because that's how he's been taught to use the Bible, and then does projection and gaslighting. And I believe in your heart, you do too. That is classic gaslighting. Instead of wanting to have a discussion, it's assuming motives, and it's really. Misty says, I'm a Paulite. Sweet, Misty. I'm way on board with that. You're awesome. Thank you. Isn't it weird that we have all these people that are just so, wow, so blinded by their religion. It's really sad. Michael says, I forgot more about that Bible than you will ever know, and I challenge you with that. I challenge you to a duel. So here comes Michael again. First, then it's this, I challenge you to a duel. And then I feel sorry for those who call good bad and right for wrong. And sir, what I'm telling you is it's not out of context, and you know it's not. So look, gaslighting it, like even after Michael is called out for his bullshit and gaslighting, he still says, why do you suppose, and you know that it's not taken out of context, why do you suppose God destroyed Solomon and Gomorrah? Solomon and Gomorrah. God destroyed Solomon and Gomorrah. It's Sodom, Michael, just so you know. And Michael, why do you think Jesus said about religious people who believe very much like you believe, you think you're going to be raised up to heaven? No, you're going to go down to Hades, and Sodom is going to have a better judgment day than you. What's sad is how bad Christians have been taught bad theology and how easily they swallow that leaven. And I'll bet Michael doesn't even know that Hezekiah, Ezekiel says the sin of Sodom was a lack of hospitality. It's funny how we take 6 passages of the Bible and say, God hates gay people. And hundreds 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 of verses that say the command of God, the never-ending command of God, is that you take care of the poor, you take care of the marginalized, the LGBTQ plus, you take care of the foreigner in your midst, and you take care of the economically disadvantaged, the widow. And Christians totally ignore hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of verses so that they can pull 6 passages and condemn a group of people and drive them to suicide. Pro-life, not hardly. You're not pro-life in the slightest. Michael says, God don't hate anybody. And again, you're trying to put words in my, I'm not putting words in your mouth. And then he misspelled Sodom, by the way. I know more about the Bible than you'll ever know. First he says Solomon and Gomorrah, and now has misspelled Sodom. I'm sorry, Michael. I don't mean to make fun of you. I feel sorry for you. You've eaten the leaven of bad religion, and the indoctrination has taken you over. And you don't know any better. I get it. You don't know your right hand from your left. Nancy says, how did Christianity become the religion of judgment? It's mind-boggling. It's bad, decades and decades and decades of bad teaching. Michael says, I'm sorry about the dictation from this phone. It's not working that well. Okay, Michael, I do apologize for that. I shouldn't be cruel. And I understand if you're doing it on your phone. I have fat thumbs. So please forgive me for that. That was not fair. The Solomon was kind of funny, but I get it. That's not fair. And that's not my argument. I don't mean to call you stupid at all. So forgive me for that. How do you feel about the Hebrew Israelites? I don't know. I think we should be able to tell Israel, particularly because we give them $3 billion of aid a year. We should be able to say to Israel, hey, we don't feel good about how you're treating the Palestinians. Can we try to think this through differently? And I feel very strongly about that. I think I think the Samaritans are a pretty good representation, and my friend Julia or the other a Jewish person that was with us might disagree, and I'm open to that. But I really believe that Jesus would like for all people to be loved. And it's not the fault of the Palestinians who live in Israel that they live there. They are descendants of a generation that have lived. They've never known another place to live, and they've never had their own land. So can we talk about some ways that we can quit doing it the way we're doing? Because it seems cruel. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs, but it seems cruel. Michael, I appreciate that you're offering to sit down and talk face to face. I probably won't do that because I am consistently compelled to sit with people with eyes to see and ears to hear, like people that really want to hear something different than what they've always known. I'm here to give permission to people to walk away from the bad religion that you bring. And so I probably would not take you up on that offer unless you could sincerely convince me that you were open to hearing. But I do accept your apology for about the dictation on the phone. And again, I hope you accept my apology for making fun of you for the misspelling. I get it. I have trouble typing on the phone too, and I know you were passionately trying to go quickly. Now the gaslighting and then doubling down on the gaslighting, I don't. I think you need to apologize for that. And you say your earrings are really cute too, by the way. That's probably being cruel. So our chances of sitting down together are probably really nil, because I just think so many Christians have become major assholes, and they're saying we're oppressed, and I'm like, no, you're not oppressed, you're assholes. And people respond to assholes by saying you're an asshole, and they don't like to sit down with assholes and be preached to by assholes. Christianity in America is shrinking at record rates because you're assholes, not because you're oppressed, not because people have become evil. You're assholes. And people don't like to sit down and be preached to by assholes who are trying to convert them to be assholes with them. Michael says, hey, I'm just having fun with you, man. Let's not be cruel to one another. See, I am an asshole to Christian people because there's no other way to get your attention. You're so indoctrinated. Like, so what I'm doing is following, and then I'll let Michael go and get to the rest of you guys. I'm following the way of Jesus. Jesus confronted religious people in the harshest, most sarcastic, most angry of terms. People always say, well, Jesus was nice. No. When Jesus said, you guys are whitewashed tombs, your dad is the devil, there was nothing nice about what he was saying. When he said, you think you're righteous? You think you're reasonable? You strain out gnats and swallow camels. You guys are fucking idiots, is what he was saying. Jesus was not kind to religious people because he wanted to protect the marginalized that they were trying to oppress with their oppressive religiosity. And today, indoctrinated, dogmatic evangelicals are trying to impose. Jesus said, I came to set the captives free. And evangelical Christianity is like, we want to make you captive of our religious rules, even to the point of we're going to vote a terrible man as a Republican into presidency of the United States, even though he's been a Democrat, a pro-choicer his whole life. We're going to fall for his BS and make him president because we believe imposing our indoctrination on you through the civil code is what God wants. So Jesus was very, very cruel to religious people. Yes, Michael, I did start the trash talking, and I will continue to trash talk Christians because I was one for 56 years. Now I'm just a follower of Jesus because Christianity has proven that its heart is dark beyond measure. Julie says, men in the 80s looked like women and got more women. So sad. I still have to hear this. Julie, like, you're so right. I love it. Like, I loved The Cure, those 80s bands like The Cure, Human League, Dead or Alive, where the singers, wore makeup and eye makeup and earrings and stuff. But men have worn earrings through all of history. See, Christians don't know history. I guarantee you Moses wore earrings. I guarantee you King David wore earrings. It was just a part of the culture. And earrings have always been worn by males through all of history. But evangelicals have believed we are the one right people through all of history. We are the only ones who have solved what is right, and they have no room for anything that looks out of the norm. So it's a very evil bondage. And Jesus said the leaven of that will bring the curse of Isaiah 6 on you. And the curse of Isaiah 6 was these people no longer have eyes to see or ears to hear. And so we see people like Michael that have they can read the Bible. Like Saul of Tarsus knew the Bible better than anybody. He was the best Bible student in the best Bible school with the best Bible teacher in all the world. And his conclusions of what the Bible said were 100% wrong. They were 180 degrees in the opposite direction of who God was and who Jesus represented God to be. And that's what we see in evangelicals this year. I think you're full of crap. Well, awesome. Religious guys like you said exactly the same about Jesus. So thank you for the compliment. Echo Cologne says Christianity has nothing to do with Yeshua Christ. I agree. Karen says indigenous folks wear makeup and jewelry. Yes, they do. Candy says, I will never follow the yellow brick road of a programmed society. All right, TikTok guys, what's going on here? Truth is better says, what prayer? I'm saying born again. I think Jamie's talking about the magical, mystical prayer that you say, if I say this prayer, God has to take me to heaven. Ooh, I take Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. Now God has to take me to heaven. It's an incantation. Jesus said, you come to the Father in my name. In my name in that culture meant you follow my teachings and the life that I have demonstrated for you to lead. Christians think I can say a prayer and then be as big an asshole as I want to be, and God still has to take me to heaven. It's Romans specifically says, if in any way you can take personal credit for your salvation, it's not real salvation. It's not from God. So a sinner's prayer, which was never demonstrated in the Bible, Jesus never once asked a person to say a sinner's prayer, and neither did the rest of the Bible ever lay out a sinner's prayer. A sinner's prayer does not get you to heaven. That is an idea that I say a mystical incantation, and God has to take me to heaven. It's witchcraft. Son of God is a mistranslation of Son of Man from the Hebrew. Karen, I think that's really interesting. I spent some time studying, and I wrote a blog about it, I think, on Son of Man. Why did Jesus call himself Son of Man? My understanding was in Aramaic, which Jesus spoke. Hey, here's a shocker, evangelicals, for you. This may be a shocker to you. Jesus did not speak English. He wasn't white. He wasn't American. The Aramaic that Jesus spoke, Son of Man, was a tongue twister and an interesting choice of words. It wasn't a common phrase. And he got it from Ezekiel, where Ezekiel is approached by God. We see this Trinity in action. It says, God spoke to Ezekiel. He says, Son of man, stand up and I will speak to you. Then it said the Spirit of God was present with Ezekiel. So we see the Spirit of God in heaven, the Spirit of God on earth in the room with Ezekiel. And then it says that Spirit entered Son of Man, and Ezekiel stood and had a conversation with God. So the Trinity is in action in that moment. God in heaven, God in spirit on earth, and God in humanity. And Jesus took that and said, I am Son of Man, just as Ezekiel was, and you are Son of Man as well. So that is a huge mistranslation. And some of that is people went back and sort of rewrote biblical text because, like, we need to pump this up a little bit to prove that Jesus was Messiah. So I'm gonna have to go in just a bit, guys. I've been going for an hour and 14 minutes, but I love hanging with you guys. Karen says, great explanation, Paul. So would you guys do me a favor and go to my website, pastor-paul.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I need another word for newsletter. Everybody hates newsletters. Nobody wants a newsletter. If somebody has a better word for newsletter, let me know. I need a better word than that for newsletter. But you can sign up for my newsletter and get on my community chat board for free. And you can ask me a question on the community chat board anytime you like, and I'll answer it on there. And if you're able, and it's not going to put you at a financial detriment, you have the option and opportunity to help support the work that I do, to do free content like I'm doing tonight, by subscribing at a level as small as $5.99 a month, which every bit helps, and up to $100 a month. So would love to have you join. Hey, Jeff Smith, what's up? Southern Astro Lace says, thank you for your voice. You're so welcome. Much love to you guys. So let's finish again with just loving this moment together. Oh, now miscellaneous Amanda says, are you sincere? I really want you to be sincere and not the same as the rest. Can I tell you something, Amanda? That it's a heartbreaker for me, and it's nothing wrong. I love that you said it. So please don't hear me as being critical of you for saying that. It breaks my heart, because I know where that statement is coming from. We've had so much disappointment in people that we wanted to trust in the church. And so I love that you said this. I love that you asked this, and it humbles me that you said that, Amanda. It humbles me. Jamie says, I'm exhausted. So many trolls. I mean, Christians. Amanda, it reminds me of how big a responsibility I have as somebody who has the honor of somebody like you coming on my page. It makes me a little bit emotional. So Amanda, there's every possibility that I might disappoint you someday and fail you, but I want you to know my heart is to not do that. I can't promise you that I won't fuck up, because I'm human. But I can promise you I'm sincere. I'm trying really hard. Sometimes I get mad at somebody like Michael and, those stupid ways. But such a sweet question. Oh my gosh. I am like stopped in my tracks right now. Amanda, if you want to, I'm gonna follow you and send me a message, send me a DM. If you like, please don't feel pressure. But if you would like to, I would be glad to talk more about that, because your question so moved my heart. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be sharing some about my emotional well-being journey. And part of it is I'm doing some intensive outpatient therapy with some really sweet people, and I just see hearts so broken. And so much of it comes from religious upbringing, religious belief, religious dogma, religious indoctrination. And I just hate it. And I want it to go away, or I want people to be able to walk away from it, so that you can truly know the love of a good spirit of heaven. Because evangelical Christianity and right-wing Christianity is such a bad representation of the spirit of heaven. So I'll quit rolling on, but Amanda, thank you for that question. I am humbled and honored by your question. Julie says, thank you for sharing your personal story. Also, it has helped me with my own. Guys, you can always go to my website, pastor-paul.com. Sometimes I go to my DMs and I answer those. But if you email me through the website, I will always answer because I get a notification to my personal email account, pastor-paul.com. Libby Hop says, sweetie, cherish this time, become your best you. Thank you. I can't wait to tell the story of here's the story I'm going to tell. I'm really fucked up. And I really got fucked up by our religion growing up, by having an evangelical pastor as a dad. Don says, do you have a testimony written out? Not yet, Don. I have a little bit of it written in my novel, Joseph Comes to Town. Skyhawk says, I'm so very proud of you. You care about people. It's evident, says Jeff. I'm not, and I promise you guys, thank you for those encouraging words. They mean the world, but sometimes I don't feel deserving of all of that. Stormy says, my discernment has never sent a red flag with you, Pastor. Thank you, guys. Linda says, this is only the second time I've had the opportunity to listen to you, but I'm so happy I found you. Emily says, I can't wait to hear it. Ah, you guys are so sweet. I love you. So yeah, go to pastor-paul.com and contact me through that. I'll always get back to you. Nancy says, I appreciate you and your message. So I just want to honor this time we had together. I'm so grateful that you would spend your time with me and we could spend our time together. So I send my love and energy to you tonight. And I tell you that you are good. The Spirit of heaven declares you good and you're worthy of good things. I love you guys. Jeff says, don't care for the pastor title, but you're cool. Yeah, I understand. I don't really like the pastor title either, but it's helpful to some. And so I'm proud to wear it for somebody who says, you give me permission to think differently. Penny, oh, this is for you, Jamie. Penny says, to whoever said they're exhausted by the trolls, just block them. I don't like to block them all too much because you never know which one will become a Nicodemus, for one. And also, when they come by the page, they kick up the algorithm, So sometimes it's kind of good to have the trolls come into your page because then they get you out on the For You page or on the YouTube channel. And, so that happens. All right, guys, again, if you need to get hold of me and get an answer, if I've missed your question or anything, go to pastor-paul.com and send me a message. Love you guys. Proud to have spent this time with you, and bless you. We'll see you later, TikTok. You guys are amazing. Glad I have my account back. See ya. And YouTube, love you guys. Thanks for being my friends, for your energy and love. Bye-bye. Oh, and Facebook.